This is verse 9 of the book of Jude. We're in the midst of the warnings that Jude is giving with respect to the people who have apparently been invaded by those who've sneaked in surreptitiously, trying to distort in a libertine direction the grace of Christ. And so Jude is giving them these warnings based on, first of all, Old Testament examples. We've looked at those. And now Jude is moving to a comparison with various other circumstances, and the one that is before us right here in verse 9 actually is drawn from apocryphal literature, most likely the Assumption of Moses, as it's called, which appears to be a first century document that was well known at the time. Of course, not in the New Testament canon, but nevertheless Jude makes references to it simply for illustrative purposes here, and I think that's probably as much as we need to say about it in terms of worrying about where it came from or why it's quoted. But Jude continues, ho, the definite article here, ho, postpositive de, and then Mikael, this is of course Michael, the archangel, so ho, archangelos, so Michael, the archangel's character Michael, only mentioned twice in the New Testament, and also in the Old Testament book of Daniel. The term archangel, of course, was again current in Jewish usage at the time, assuming a kind of hierarchy of angels. Some have thought maybe Michael is Christ himself. Certainly appears to be the case when we see the name in Revelation. Jude here would seem to be an exception, because we're going to hear later that Michael said, "The Lord rebuke you." And we wouldn't, at least on the face of it, imagine that if Christ himself were speaking, that he would make that invocation. But of course, that's precisely what happens in Zechariah. We have basically a quote from Zechariah where the Lord says, "The Lord rebuke you." So, in principle, there's no reason to question whether Michael might be Christ. I'll leave that discussion for another time, but the point is that it may be Christ, it may be some other being, but for the purposes of the present discussion, Michael, denominated here as the archangel, and the setting is hota, when, conjunction, and then to, the dative, singular masculine article with diabolo, the devil. So when, with respect to the devil, the dative here, and then diakrinomenos. This is from diakrino. Dia means through, and krino means to judge. To judge through. The idiomatic sense of it was a contention, when contending or arguing or disputing, as that's the idea. So when, with respect to the devil, and then the present participle, disputing, that's what's going on. And then a very similar word, dialegato. This is from dialegomai. This happens to be the third-person singular aorist active indicative. And again, it means to dispute. So it means disputing, or disputing, contending, or something like that. Rather emphatic, and of course it does reflect this apocryphal writing of some sort of debate that was taking place, apparently, on the death of Moses. So disputing, peri, means concerning, takes the genitive, to mouseos, concerning the of Moses somatos body. So this contention over the disposition of the body of Moses. Of course, the burial place of Moses is not known, never was known in the Old Testament. There was some legend that developed, of course, as a result of that, and it's probably reflected here. The backstory is beyond the scope of this discussion, but nevertheless, Jude makes reference to it, again, for the illustrative purposes of making his statement with respect to the alleged arrogance of these people who've sneaked in, comparing them to people of much greater dignity who didn't dare to make such a kind of slanderous move. So that's really the sense of it. We have uk, the negation, etolmesen. This is from tolmao. It means I dare, as in I dare to do something. Here it is the third-person singular aorist active indicative, did not dare. So Michael did not dare christen, word for judgment, a christen, a judgment. Enegkain, this is from epiphero, to, of course, pharaoh is to carry, to bring something. Epi makes it to bring upon or lay upon. That's the idea. This is the aorist infinitive. So he did not dare to lay on, to bring on, in that connection, blasphemias, a blasphemy, a slander, a slanderous accusation, it's sometimes rendered. And so even the archangel Michael, in spite of his elevated station, is not prepared to launch independently a slanderous accusation against the devil, Allah, the strong conjunction apen, but he said, third person singular, aorist active indicative, epitemesai. This is from epitemao. Temao means to honor something. Epitemesai would be to actually a kind of inverse sense of it, rather than to honor, but to rebuke, to take away honor. It's idiomatic. But it would be a rebuke or something like that. The indirect object soi, you, and then kurios, so the Lord rebuke you. Again, that's a direct quote from Zechariah chapter 3, in which we have a similar statement made by the Lord, made by Yahweh, saying, Yahweh rebuke you. Kind of an interesting sort of expression there, and of course we have something like that reflected here. So he's really referring to the arrogance of these people who've sneaked in, these false teachers, and indicating that they even have arrogance that exceeds the examples that we find, especially in this case of Michael, the archangel, who would not slander directly in this case or bring a railing accusation, as it's sometimes rendered, against the devil, but invokes that Old Testament formula, the Lord rebuke you.